different flowers came on my radar because I love Shelley Long, and even the 10 minutes that she was in this film were not good. Not because of her. I love her. None of the performances in the film were bad, but the narrative is very dire. And the characters, our two protagonists, are two of the most irritating characters ever. This was released in 2017, is directed and written by Morgan Dameron, and it stars Emma Bell as Millie and Hope Lauren as Emma. They are sisters. For reference, Shelley Long plays their grandmother, and she, as I said, appears in it for probably about 10 minutes of screen time at the most. So if you're watching this as a Shelley Long fan, don't expect much, but I like her in this. I'm biased. The rest of the film is abysmal. It's Millie's wedding day at the start of the film, and she decides she can't go through with it, so she hops in her sister's car, and off they go. And that's it. That's literally it. I can count the key plot points on about 3 fingers. Nothing happens. It is very boring and very slow, and I was waiting for the action to happen. And there's this one moment where I really thought something dramatic was going to happen, and it was just a red herring. And I will, with a spoiler warning, tell you what that moment is in a minute, because I thought things were going to get really interesting, and then it just fell flat again. And when you have a boring narrative that's got no action, no comedy, it's not funny, no suspense. The only bit that I'm going to mention that I thought was suspenseful, as I said, didn't actually work out, and I'll mention that in a moment. But when you combine all of that with 2 exceptionally irritating characters, it's actually really difficult to watch. I could not wait for it to be finished. And honestly, I rarely feel that about a film at all. It is one of the worst written narratives and 2 of the worst written characters I've ever come across. And interestingly, if you have a look at the reviews on IMDb, they're mostly either very, very negative or 10 stars, which is a little bit suspicious. But at the same time, does that mean that some people really, really love it and then the rest of us think it's rubbish? Maybe. I'd be very keen to know what you think of it. And if you do genuinely love it and you do have no connection to the film, I'd be very keen to hear that. And also, I respect your opinion if that's the case. Everybody has different tastes, but it's not as if I didn't like it just because it doesn't appeal to me. It is a very badly written narrative that has nothing to offer. It's supposed to be a message. Well, there are 2 messages. One is about doing what's right for you, and the second is about the value of sisters. But when the sisters are exceptionally irritating, I don't care. So, not a great film. Didn't have anything to offer. Literally nothing happened. We have quite a few montages and scenes with no dialogue where nothing moves forward, and I feel like that's largely because they didn't have anything to add and anything to say. And the whole thing is more than an hour and a half, and we could have told the story in maybe 20 minutes. And we would have lost nothing. So it does not need to be a feature film. There is not enough there to sustain it. I definitely do not recommend it. So with a spoiler warning now, I will tell you the bit that I thought was going to be really suspenseful, and I was really excited, and then it was just so pointless. So this is a small spoiler for something that happens. It's when the sisters are fighting, and they're arguing in the middle of the road, and the noise increases as we hear, I think it's the sound of a train, I'm not entirely sure, but the noise gets louder and louder and louder, and I was waiting for something to hit one of the sisters. Well, that sounds mean to say, I wanted it to happen, but that's what it seemed like. They were arguing, they were fighting in the middle of the road. It seemed like one sister was shoving the other sister into the oncoming traffic. That would have been so dramatic. And then they would have had to do some soul searching, realise they weren't behaving right, and that they were negatively affecting their sister. And that would have been a great way to deliver that message. And it would have made a lot of sense. And if it was the sister who was Millie, if it was Millie who'd just left her husband at the altar, that near-death experience would have been a great way to evaluate her entire life and cement the fact that she just made the right decision because life is too short. So that could have been a really good film, and it could have worked well, and I genuinely thought that's where it was going. Otherwise, we just have some increasing noise of, as I said, what I think is a train for no reason. And the music in this as well. The music itself is not bad, but the frequency of the music and the placement of the music is not great. So honestly, there is a lot of work to be done to make this a watchable film. As a Shelley Long fan, as I said, her performance was fine, but her character didn't add very much apart from one 1 minute long speech that she gave. Other than that, the character didn't really have a decent role to play either. So I can't even say I liked it as a Shelley Long fan, because I didn't. Different Flowers is ultimately a pretty terrible film.